Hello Evan, welcome to today's maths video lesson. I hope you're okay. I had a little chat with your mom over WhatsApp and she said that you're struggling a bit with the subject and feeling down on yourself. So I just want to empathize with you a little on that. I do know you're putting in the extra effort with the master maths and that maybe there's a clash or contradiction between the way I teach and the way they teach. And I know it's tough. I've been through a similar experience myself. When I was doing my board exams, for the first board exam I got like 11% and I felt pretty terrible about the whole thing. Going in I thought I knew maths, I knew processes, and I got absolutely crushed. So I just hope you keep practicing and keep trying. That's what I did to reverse the curse. And it was very painful in the beginning to do this because I was making lots of mistakes. I didn't understand concepts. I had to relearn things, redo things. But over time, I managed to develop a little bit of confidence, doing the easier problems first, and then moving faster and faster through the more advanced concepts. And I did eventually redo this exam and I got 78% the next time. So man, I feel you, I feel the process, and the only thing is unfortunately you have to go through it. I can't do it for you, unfortunately. But what you can do is send me the master maths material, and what I can try doing is adjusting to their way of doing things. Then you're just getting one message and hopefully it helps. But in today's lesson, I'm just going to start off with the easier questions relating to the graphs that we've looked at. So if you recall, the graphs we looked at were the straight line, parabola, hyperbola, and exponential. And if you can, please try and do these easier problems. Okay, you've seen what the assignment is like. You've seen the level of questions that they're asking. So they don't just ask you parabola or straight line, they mix graphs together, they change axes, they ask you for asymptotes. So I would say to start off, let's just look at the easy problems and I'll go through it very slowly and methodically, and hopefully you're able to understand. So I just want to start off by looking at parabolas again. So we're going to start off quite gently. Exercise 4, number 1, and this we will find on page 89. I'll read the question. Label each graph clearly and indicate the intercepts with the axes, so where the graph cuts the x-axis, where the graph cuts the y-axis. It's asking for intercepts, so we need to look at both the x and the y-axis in this case. So indicate the intercepts as well as any turning points. Okay, so question 1 says sketch the graph. Okay, so we've got to sketch the graph. That's why we need to find the labels that go together with our sketch. So 1.1, we have to sketch the graph f of x equals minus x squared plus 4x plus 12, and the graph g of x equals 4x plus 8. So the first graph is a parabola, okay, because it's got this x squared term, an x term, and a constant. It's a trinomial. And the second graph is a straight line. So I just want to go through the methods of finding intercepts and turning points, starting with the parabola. Okay, so I'm going to start off by finding the x-intercepts. So what do we do whenever we're finding x-intercepts? We set y equal to 0. So f of x and y are the same thing. They represent the y values. Also for the graph g of x, that's like the heights, the y values for different x inputs. So we need to set y equals to 0. So we make this thing 0. And we get the equation 0 equals x squared plus 4x plus 12. So now what do? We are solving this trinomial for 0. So we need to factorize, or we can complete the square. So I'm going to write that down. Our two methods, factorize. And not complete the square, it's quadratic equation. So I'm going to do both methods and show you that they give us the same thing. And you can pick between the two, whichever you're more comfortable with. So starting off with factorize. That's when we get the two brackets when we factorize the trinomial. So what is the first step in factorization? So for this type, I'm just going to get rid of this negative. So I'm going to multiply both sides by negative. So a negative is the same as timesing by -1 on that side and on this side. So -1 times 0 gives us a 0. And if we bring -1 into each of these, let's look at the first one. A negative will change to a positive, so we'll be left with x squared. And then a negative applied to this positive will give us -4x and -12. Okay, now we've cleaned it up a little bit. We've got this so that there's no longer a negative in front. And now we can factorize. So we make our two brackets, x in the first, x in the second, and now we need to find the values of these two constants. Okay, so we're going to find the factors of -12. Factors are like numbers that when you multiply them together, it gives -12. So -12 has a whole bunch of factors. So for example, +1 and -12, if you times them together, you get -12. +2 and -6 is another pair. 2 times 6 is 12, and a positive times a negative is a negative. And we can go on. Okay? So we need to find the specific pair of factors such that when we add them together, we get -4 for the middle term. Okay, so actually let me write down all the factors just so you can see how many there are. So we've got +1, -12, +2, -6, +3, -4, and +4, -3, +6, -2. And +12 -1. Okay, so if we multiply each of these together, we get to -12. So what happens when we add the two factors together? We add +1 and -12, we get -11. We add +2 and -6. So when we add +2 and -6 is -4. +3 and -4 is -1, 1, 4, and 11. So the specific pair that we're looking for is this one. Okay, so it's because when we add them we get the -4, and that's our central term there. So these are going to be our constants in each bracket. We're just going to put plus 2 and minus 6. So you can check if we factorized correctly by multiplying this whole bracket out. Okay, so we would use FOIL or something similar, distribution. I'm just going to do it like this. I times the x by the x, and so I times this by this term by the first and by the second, and then do the same thing with the positive 2. Okay, let's just check it quickly. So we've got x times x and minus 6 times x. Then we've got plus 2 times x and plus 2 times minus 6. So a positive times a negative is negative, and 2 times 6 is 12. Let's calculate this out. X times x is x squared. Then we've got minus 6x plus 2x minus 12. And now we can simplify these two terms because they have the same power of x. The power of x is 1. So we've got x squared minus 6x plus 2x is minus 4x minus 12. So yes, we do get back to the same thing. This factorization is correct. So now, if you remember what we're doing, we're just solving this equation. We're finding values of x so that the equation is 0. So if we pick an x value of minus 2, if we put minus 2 in here, then we've got minus 2 plus 2, which cancels, gives us 0. And the other solution is if x equals to 6. So 6 minus 6 is 0. Okay, these are our two values that make the equation 0. And it means that when we set y equals 0, it's the x-axis. So these two values are our roots. So the values, if we put the coordinate points, x is minus 2, y is 0, and the other root is when x equals to 6 and y equals 0. So I just want to take a picture of this quickly because I'm going to